Hey, Wholeness, this is Josh from Innerskilled.com, and today I have Chris Champion with me. Chris, what's going on?
Just hanging out in Napa Valley for the PGA Open. Got a great place here over at the Grayton Resort. They've been amazingly good to me. And I got to tell you, Napa Valley is wine country, but it is a gorgeous part of California.
Cool. I haven't been. I've only been to like San Diego and Carlsbad, La Jolla. So yeah, yeah.
If you look at my Instagram, I'm posting a ton of pictures
Uh,
today, but I mean, it's literally like a farming community. And then it's got its major city where, Napa, where it's got unbelievable restaurants. Yeah, just a beautiful part of California.
Very famous place for sure. So I got to talk with Chris a little bit. Well, it's some time ago, but we kind of got cut off. You were putting out fires, but that's none of my business. But important guy, and so I'll throw it back to my question: Who is Chris Champion? What kind of work does he do?
So I've been an entrepreneur most of my life. In reality, probably all of my life. When I was in high school, I took a path to graduate high school early, and I graduated in January while working when all my friends graduated in June. And part of that reason was for me, I had goals. And at the age of 16, I bought my own car. That transportation gave me the ability to get my own job. And then at 18, I became the youngest commodity broker in America at that time to pass the Series 3 exam. And then I worked for a commodity brokerage firm. I've always been driven to find solutions to build things. I'm a builder. I think if you're an entrepreneur, you got to be a builder. You got to build stuff. And about a year and a half ago, I went down the rabbit hole of AI. And as I started peeling away the layers of AI more and more and more and more, I started realizing while this is the greatest technology mankind's ever created, it's at the same time the greatest threat to humanity ever created. Now, as I've finished writing my book now called AI or Die, which I'll give everyone watching this a free digital copy. You can make a donation if you want. I want people to understand that you have got to get AI to work for you right now, or you will fall way behind those that do. Now, to put it in perspective, let me give you a little idea. By January 16th of this year, I made more personal income in those 16 days than I made all of 24 and all of 23 combined. Now, for me, it wasn't that I got one big deal that fell in my lap. It's because I found a way to get AI to work for me. And literally, I have over 400,000 man hours a day right now, today, that's being done for me with AI. AI works for me whether I'm up or sleeping or walking my dogs or whatever I'm doing. And that's where you can literally separate yourself from everybody else. For example, the only reason we're doing this interview is because not one, a series of AI agents put me in touch with you and wrote an email in my conversational voice to you introducing me to you. Now, when you got that email, it was extremely well written conversationally. It was as if I wrote it myself. But the fact of life is, I had a series of agents put me in touch with you so that literally my time can be used doing podcast interviews. I average about 6 podcast interviews a day. And those interviews keep giving me more exposure. And then at the very top of the funnel, you get views, you get more followers, you get more reach out, and then you get more deal flow. And that's literally the way life works. And I tell people this all the time. I don't care what you do to get AI to work for you, but you've got to get AI to work for you. It is AI or die. You are going to fall way behind those people in society that are using AI to work for them.
So yeah, there's quite a bit here, and this podcast I do a lot of times is about mostly about kind of spiritual things, but actually, if I could, I would make a quick correction. More or less, it's the same thing, but slight detail is someone that used your one of your services reached out to me wanting to be a guest on my podcast, and then I actually looked at I went to the website of the email, and it was investor. with you would have to spell this. And I said, I want to talk about this because I looked up the website and I saw it. Oh, wow. I was just talking to this guy. He was called the Sage of Wall Street. And one of the big gripes I had is that I'm not huge into business like you are. I have worked for some entrepreneurs who did make it really big. The accredited investor, and I don't know, you'll have to school me some here, but from what I understand, that you have to make, what is it, 200K a year, or have $1 million in liquid assets in order to
Yep.
invest in private equity, which, to simplify, is investments that aren't listed publicly on the stock market. I know it's more complex than that, and there's all kinds of things to do. And I know there's certain things you can say about this and certain things you can't. But I really want to get into that today. But what I did is I want to talk about that. And she said, "Oh, let me put you in touch with Chris." So, that's how I reached out to you, because, it was someone using your product. And so more or less it's the same thing. And now I've got into agentic AI, which is supposed to be all the rage now, where this thing is doing work for you. Before we get into investor, what can you say about what does that mean, Chris? How AI is working for you? Because it is the ground level now. I think when Bitcoin came out, it was so wild. And just tell a really quick story here with that. As soon as I heard this on a podcast years and years ago, it just came out. It's probably not much over a dollar or $10. And there's this guy called Bitcoin Morpheus, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna send this guy $5 in the mail. What I have to lose? I could tell this is going to be huge. He actually did it all legitimately. He sent everything, but I didn't know what a wallet was back then, and it was way more complex than buying Bitcoin. So that $5 in Bitcoin could have been worth quite a bit today, small time thing, but I didn't know that the technology. So I guess some people might think, oh, this is too complicated, I can't do this. But no, I don't think it is. We've been so entrenched in the internet and things like that. I think it's fairly easy. So how is AI working for you, Chris? And then if we can transition into the alternatives to accredited investing for the small timer.
So let me give you some examples. I have one AI agent every single night that goes and literally takes all the new podcasts that are uploaded to a series of sites and takes the audio file and converts it into a text file and stores it in our AWS server in a database. Now, last night, just to give you an example, that AI agent converted 942,317 podcasts from audio into text so that we can search for keywords. To put that in perspective, I would have to hire 5,000 people working in 8-hour shifts, listening to those podcasts and transcribing them. And many of them would probably make typos and errors that the AI didn't do. Now, that's one agent. I got another agent that once that database is updated, goes on behalf of clients, and it's a multitude of agents, but they all do the same task, and it builds what are called podcast communities for each one of those clients based on their keywords. So it literally takes podcasts out of that new data and says, hey, these are podcasts that fit the target audience of, for example, Josh. And then I have other AI agents that basically are what are called conversational AI agents that literally write emails promoting our clients to be on podcasts in their own conversational voice. Now, when you combine all three of those agents together to work together like little teammates, the result is that our clients are getting 40,000 man hours a day of work done for them that literally leads them to just doing the podcast interviews. And when you think about that, if you can offload that kind of work to AI instead of a human being, that saves you time, money, and also allows you to scale way faster than you've ever seen before in your life.
Yeah, now I'm getting a lot of pitches from this service called Podpitch, and it basically does, I think, what you said. Can you name the service you're saying, and then the service some of these services that you're using, and let people know about them. But the other thing I want.
Well, ours is Champion AI. So we
Champion
built
AI.
all our
Okay.
agents that work in
Sure.
cohesion with each other.
Now, what I heard today, I saw on a newsletter, is that there's one company that's entered now that they're pumping out a ton of podcasts. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of podcasts that are all AI created. Basically, they're all just AI is creating this, you know. So this is another.
Is it
Now,
a company or is it a podcaster?
it is a company, and it's all AI created, computerized voice flooding the podcast server. I'll have to look it up and send you the name of the server. But so you did talk about the dangers of AI. So I also would like to hear what you meant by that too, because yeah, I can see the pros and cons to this. You know, many
Well, I
many
tell
pros and
people all
cons.
the time, you got to get AI to work for you right now, or we're literally going to find people that are literally out of work and don't have a way to provide income or make money for themselves. And I'll give you an example. You're starting to see self-driving robo taxis come into certain markets. 500 just entered into the Las Vegas market. The people that rely on Uber for a job, there's 7 million of them. They might as well kiss that job goodbye. They're going to be replaced by a robo taxi easily. I've driven one, I've sat in one. It is more comfortable. It is, you get in the taxi, you get out the taxi, it takes you where you want to go. I mean, it's literally better than anything you could do with a human being. The thing that AI is able to do is it's able to do everything that a human being can do, but it's doing it better. I'll give you another example. The 370,000 people that work for Amazon. Amazon's now building AI robots that are going to take their place and work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can't get that out of a human being. So there's another 370,000 people that don't have a warehouse job. If you look down the row of all the jobs that AI is going to replace, let me give you one last example. A friend of mine owns a series of restaurants, and it is hard as hell for him to find good employees to work in a restaurant. And at the end of the day, when they have to find employees to work in the back and make meals, or be as cooks, line cooks, or even waitresses and waiters, or even cashiers to work the front desk, they literally, and he has a hard time literally keeping employees on board. They're either distracted, don't want to work for the wages that they're being offered, or whatever. He's now finding ways to use AI robots or kiosks to literally replace these employees. Well, what happens when all these people that were relying on a job for restaurant work all of a sudden find themselves without work? You start eliminating jobs and replacing human beings with AI. I tell you this, it is going to create more homelessness. It's going to create foreclosures. It's going to create a massive problem amongst humanity that politicians are not prepared for. You cannot wait for a politician to save your life. They are not going to come to save you. In fact, in many ways, politicians are corrupt, and they're basically stealing as much money as they can so they can save themselves and their own families.
These are really good points, and even if for some reason it doesn't pan out like this, this is something we have to consider because of what's happened. I've even heard that we have the kind of this agentic AI. ChatGPT is the things that most people are familiar with, I guess. But I mean, what happens when this does start getting into the robotics? When it does even manual labor, like picking crops and just
Oh yeah,
doing when
that's going to
robots
go.
happen, and this turns into dystopian AI or dystopian science fiction. I mean, we have been primed a lot of through media and stuff to already consider a lot of this stuff. Go ahead.
Well, you're going to find part of the reason why I think Trump is pushing a lot of this illegal immigration out of our country is they're very, very much ready right now to let AI robots pick the crops, and probably pick them faster and better and work 24 hours a day. You're going to see robots literally picking blueberries, or getting avocados ready to go to market, or cucumbers or watermelons, anything that ultimately grows that a human being used to work on. Those jobs are going to go to AI robots, and it's going to be more efficient, and it's probably going to be better because mankind, it's literally a tough job that a lot of these immigrants end up doing, that are, it's horrible. It's a horrible wage, it's a horrible way to make a living. You're out in the sun all day. It's not meant for mankind to do that job. But here's the problem: when AI starts replacing those jobs, now you've got all these people that are at the poor level that are now they don't have a way to make a living. And if they don't have a way to make a living, You take enough people and you create ways for them to not make a living, you're going to see increased crime. And people are going to have to literally resort to crime to survive. You're going to see lawyers being replaced. Imagine when a lawyer has $200,000 in student loan debts and then all of a sudden has no way to make a living. Well, the only thing left when you don't have a way to make a living is crime. And you're going to see crime go up. Now, some people look at it that way. I look at it the other way. I think that the opportunities for entrepreneurs are greater now than they've ever been. And the sad fact is, generations of students have not been taught to be entrepreneurs. They've been taught to be employees. And I think entrepreneurs are able to look at AI and say, hey, I could use AI and build this, or I could use AI and scale myself like this, or I can use AI and turn it into a revenue generating tool for me. And at the end of the day, that's mission critical. As I tell everyone right now, AI or die. You literally have to find a way to get AI to work for you so that it generates you money.
This is wild, and you're dealing with the practical aspects of how to do this, and I just can't help but spin off into dystopian stuff. However, what are all these people going to do if they don't do this? On one hand, though, I also see a very good. Nobody I don't feel is here. At least this is my opinion, to slave away their entire life doing stuff they don't want to do just in order to have their basic needs met. One of the things this would do, what this picture we're painting here, you're painting here, is free people up for things. We're human beings, not human doings so much. And so as far as the spiritual aspect, the existential aspect of what did this even means to be human, people don't really have the luxury to contemplate really deep, philosophical things like this because they're slaving away their life. But it is a really practical thing mentioned about, if a lot of people get laid off, what are they going to do with themselves? And it's really interesting to consider. So if you don't mind, I want to transition though to because I can really get drawn into. I mean, this is of utmost importance to even science fiction stuff about like the Matrix, where the machines will then revolt against the humans, and you have this huge war. So I mean, this is all kind of philosophical at this point, but it's something we need
It's
to
it's
consider a little
it's
bit.
irony how science fiction
Yeah.
eventually becomes science.
A lot of it does. That's right. Okay, so investors. So can you talk a little bit about this platform that you have? Because I always can, I'm sorry, but I look at a lot of the things to invest with for small timers, and I just don't really like just that, the huge mega corporations investing in them. I would really, the reason I want to champion this is because to really see change in this world. I don't think it's going to come through a huge multinational conglomerate corporation. That's going to be the kind of same old stuff. But if you can actually take your money and go meet the people that are going to have a company and put their blood, sweat, and tears into it, they have a really good idea to change the world, and it's private. It's big, but not everybody has access to such a small thing. People might want to invest in these things, but they can't, like legally. But so how can you get around that? Doesn't this investor and spell the letters out for people?
So
What's
it's
it?
NVSTOR, and it's a
Dot
dot
co,
co,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
dot co, yeah. Everyone does dot com, but it's hilarious. But
Mhm.
since 2017, I've personally invested in over 120 projects, many of them in the crypto space. And I love crypto for the fact that it is the people's money, and it gives people the ability to use their money almost like a venture capitalist. It literally gives them unlimited opportunities, and it reduces barriers to entry for the average human being. I'll give you a great example. There's a guy named Jerry that is announced the largest commercial note that is being staked by Bitcoin, where people can literally put up Bitcoin as collateral, get 50% loan to value, invest that in a commercial note, have the security of the real estate behind that commercial note, securing that note along with a personal guarantee and businesses that are inside that, making them first in line, and then immediately get the first year's worth of interest at 14.95% paid to them in Bitcoin. Well, what does that do? Number one, when you stake Bitcoin, you still keep it. You own that Bitcoin. You're borrowing against it up to 50% loan to value. You now just got a year's worth of interest, which is like shade under 15% in Bitcoin added to your holdings. So let's say you've got $200,000 in Bitcoin, 100,000 is allows you to invest into the commercial note. Well, guess what? On day one, you just got $15,000 in Bitcoin added to your holdings. Let's say a year from now, Bitcoin goes up 2x in value, not 3x, not 4x, just 2x. Well, your real rate of return is now 30%, but it's actually more than that because you still owned the value, underlying value of Bitcoin. So now your Bitcoin, instead of 200,000, is 400,000. So your real rate of return is $230,000 on a $100,000 investment, which is 230x. And that kind of opportunity is typically available to VCs or big private equity firms that have never made it available for the average human being. Now I use $200,000 as the example. The nice thing is with these type of opportunities, you can go to a company like Salt Lending and you can literally invest 10,000 or 5,000 or 20,000, whatever amount of Bitcoin you want to stake or get a loan against. That's the amount that you can put in. You're not limited to doing large numbers. Anybody can participate. And when you let the masses of people participate in the same opportunities that typically are reserved for private equity or very rich individuals, that literally is reducing the barrier of entry and giving the average human being the ability to get their money to work for them. And that's one of the reasons why I'm a huge fan of Bitcoin, have been since 2013.
Well, very cool. Does this product have a name? Does it have, like
So
this
it's
financial
the
instrument you're talking about? Does it has it like a
it's a commercial note structured with Bitcoin. I set up a company called Champion Capital for these type of deals, and the next deal that we're doing is $888 million for a condo hotel here in Las Vegas. Well, actually, I'm not in Vegas today, but eventually in Las Vegas.
wow, all based on this staking to Bitcoin then?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
giving people the ability to get their Bitcoin to work for them
Mhm.
and then have it secured by commercial real estate. The nice thing about commercial real estate is it has great underlying value. And especially when you're investing, if you had it staked by residential real estate, residential real estate and commercial are night and day different. Commercial real estate, when you got a condo hotel, that's a huge asset to put as a security blanket for everyone that's participating in the commercial note.
Wow, yeah. So what can people go there right now and get involved in this, or
Yeah,
where's
they
this
can
at? Yeah.
they can go to
And
Salt Lending, they can stake Bitcoin, they can participate in it. Like I said, the beauty of that deal is
mm,
that a year's worth of interest is paid in Bitcoin on day one. The reason why that's a big deal is if you got the interest paid in dollars, that's it. That's your max potential. But if you get it paid in Bitcoin and it goes into your wallet address, well, here's the nice thing about that. You now have that Bitcoin. And if over the course of a year or 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, the price of Bitcoin escalates, you get that benefit. So you literally got paid in Bitcoin, which ultimately has the ability to appreciate against the US dollar more than the dollar has against Bitcoin.
now, what about people structuring deals? Can they go to the platform? They have to basically get in touch with you in order to do something like this.
Yeah, if they want to
Yeah.
apply
Mhm.
for Champion Capital
Mhm.
opportunities, then yes, I will look at deals. Our only thing that we're looking at right now
Mhm.
is commercial real estate.
Okay. Well, cool.
Which, by the way, there's a ton of commercial real estate opportunities out there. It's time for people to be able to put their money to work for them in commercial real estate. Typically, those opportunities have always been set aside for big private equity, big banks, or big investors.
Well, right on, and I appreciate kind of the novelty and the idea behind this. And like you said, this probably wouldn't be possible. 20 years ago or something. So yeah, it's really cool. All right, well, I think we ought to start wrapping up here. Why don't you tell people what else you have in the works and what else you have going on, and what else you want to draw people's attention to today?
I think the biggest thing I want people to walk away from this talk from is understanding that, hey, while AI may be a little scary to people, it's not that scary that you can't take a little bit of time every day, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, and just learn how to get AI agents to work for you. Now, I get a lot of people that go, "Oh yeah, I went to ChatGPT and I typed in this and I got a picture of a funny dog barking and talking." And yes, that's using what are called prompts. But getting AI to work for you and building agents is night and day different from that. And that's what I want to literally emphasize to people is don't get caught up in using prompts to create a funny dog video. Get caught up in finding ways to get AI to work for you so that you can generate income. And as much income as you can generate right now, sock it away into Bitcoin because it is the soundest, hardest money you can get. If you haven't figured it out yet, the US dollar is a failed experiment. And if in the last 14 years we've seen Bitcoin appreciate against the US dollar, it's not that Bitcoin's going up in value, it's that the dollar is going down in value. And I think people have to understand that until you control your own money, until you have Bitcoin in your own wallet, you'll never really understand how important it is to have Bitcoin versus having the dollar in a bank. And let's be honest, the banks are probably insolvent. I mean, has anyone checked Fort Knox? Have we done an audit lately?
Yeah, it is something else. And well, one last thing to tag on here is you've heard this thing where they're deliberately devaluing the dollar, right? That's the yeah. And so, and what's your outlook on, it eventually being pegged to something like a stable coin or Bitcoin, or I know they said didn't they pass something where there's no central bank digital currency, but there's going to be something similar to it. Do you know how all this stuff is playing out? I barely know what I'm talking about here, or probably not even
Listen,
much. Yeah,
listen, if you
yeah.
want a stable coin, there's a really good one called Tether. They're run by a world-class team. I think at the end of the day, stable coins are exactly that. They're just pegged to the US dollar. I think Bitcoin inherently is a store of value that every family should have. And it will literally change the dynamic of how they look at money when they start accumulating Bitcoin. The nice thing about Bitcoin is you can buy $100 a day. I tell a friend of mine, John, all the time, hey, you got three daughters. Instead of going to Starbucks, throw $30 worth of Bitcoin in their name every day. What is that? $90 a day. And then literally every single day, if you just stick loyally to that, I'm telling you, 5 years down the road, you'll look back and say that was the smartest thing I ever did.
I'm talking to boomers like my dad about Bitcoin, and he's got his Wall Street Journal, and things like this. But he claims, oh, it's meaningless. It means nothing. Well, if you think about it, the pieces of paper with a dead president on it are digit. It's already That's hardly anybody's using that. At least in England, there's some places that I had they won't even accept cash. So
It's
it's already in the computers anyway. And with Bitcoin though. You have to wait for a deposit to go into a bank, like however many days they make me wait for it. You can move money instantaneously.
wait till you
It's a
try
trust. Go ahead.
when you try pulling money out of your bank in large quantities, and then you'll find out real quick the bank doesn't even have that money.
Well, yeah, and that's the whole thing. Even when you go to borrow, they say the money doesn't exist. They just type it into a computer and create it out of thin
Well,
air.
forget borrowing. Let's
Yeah.
say you have $100,000. I went to the bank one time and I tried to get a significant amount of money out. And they literally gave me the runaround. They had me fill out forms. And then at the very end of it all, they said, okay, it'll take us 7 days to order the money for you. I'm like, what do you mean order the money? Like, what's in the wall? What's in the vault? What's in your vault? Turns out nothing.
No,
These
no,
banks have like $10,000, $20,000 cash on hand. They have to order the money. Then when they ordered it, I had to go there. They're taking a video of me actually getting the money in my hands. And I looked at that process and I said to myself, the banks are insolvent. Just nobody has figured it out yet. So that's
yeah.
when I realized very quickly it's mission critical that people literally get away from banks and start literally banking with Bitcoin.
You can even open your own bank if you want to, right? But yeah, it's I mean
You don't
use
have to open a bank. You can literally just
right
own Bitcoin
Bitcoin.
and you are the bank. You have
Yeah.
the private keys, you have access to all your valuable assets. I mean, just use Bitcoin. Bitcoin and a Bitcoin wallet is your bank.
Well, cool, Chris. It was cool chatting today, and I appreciate your insights and your outlook, and yeah, educating me on some stuff that I don't normally get into as much here. So appreciate it.
Josh, it's been great. I appreciate your time, man.